Okay. And then from having the mindset of, I mean, from not having much growing up to then now being in this financial world that is literally a doggy dog, very rough, and like you said, very greasy, you know, when it comes to it. What shifts did you have to create in your mind to be able to be in that confidently? Or was it a thing of fake it till you make it that you dealt with? And did you ever feel, because like I think as a man, when it comes to women, it's a lot of different when it comes to our emotions. But as a man, how was it for you to process the fact that you grew up in this other type of lifestyle and now you're doing this? Were you able to naturally shift into it just because of a mindset of work? Or did you ever battle with, do I belong here? Can I even do this? I don't come from money. Like, I've just been learning and reading about this and, you know, hoping for the best? Or did you do it because you wanted more for yourself?
Yes, I think if everyone's honest, I think everyone has a little piece of that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Of if people found out, they would say, I don't belong here. Everyone has some element of that. And for me, being in the investment world, a lot of these people did come from money.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, if people found out. So like even me telling some of the stories that I would tell openly now, I probably wasn't as like, hey, everyone grew up poor. Let me manage your money. It was more of like, I think also as I've kind of processed and also wanting to bring hope to others who feel like I'm stuck in poverty. I can never get out. It's like, hold on, no, you can. But for me going in that investment space, it's a lot of sharks, a lot of people that come from money. They know everyone. And it's like, I don't know those people. I don't come from that world and I don't have a home in the Hamptons. But you know what I do have? I've got some grit. I've got some willingness that I want to grow. And actually, I think I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah. Okay. But did you ever question being in the industry and did you ever want to leave it?
I would say this, I'd never questioned being in it because I was like, it took me a while to say, but I'm good with money. Like just in the same way that someone's like, hey, I'm decent at golf.
Yeah.
Like I don't golf, but actually I really enjoy the concept of money and not from a greed sense, but just from a sense of like, for me, it's like a board game.
Yeah.
Like I just actually enjoy working with it. I enjoy like today flying here. I'm listening to podcasts about money, not because there's an assignment, not because I'm preparing for a meeting, but I just actually enjoy it.
Yeah, you love the subject. You naturally gravitate towards it.
So working in the investment space, there is a lot of people that probably they feel like they deserve to be there. And I'm like, it's kind of like, you know, when LeBron says, hey, I'm just some poor kid from Akron, Ohio. And it's like, hey, I'm just happy I get to be here. There is a little bit of that always with me. I'm like, hey, I don't come from like the best background. I love my parents so much and they tried to do their best. But there's also this piece like, hey, my parents divorced when I was young. We were like poverty for the next couple of years. And really a big piece of it was I just got involved with a really good church, which had really good mentors that surrounded me, that really built me up and encouraged me. And that really inspired me. And so there's a piece of me, I'm like not equating myself with LeBron, but there's a piece of me of like, I'm thankful I get to be in the room.
Yeah, and I think that you took something that maybe was, like you said, your parents did as much as they could, that maybe to others might have been a negative, upbringing because you didn't have the glitz and the glam.
Yeah.
But instead you were like, well, that doesn't have to be my journey or where it stops. I can change it and elevate from it. And the fact that you had great mentors along the way that were able to inspire and instill in you the ability to think of yourself higher than what your current situation was, which I think is really important because a lot of people, when they're growing up, whether it be from their family, the society, the neighborhood they grew up in, whether it be the country they came from, or even a relationship, let's say, if you get married and divorced, you think that you identify only with that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a very firm believer, and we talk about it a lot in the podcast, that you can reinvent yourself, you can evolve from whatever situation it is. So in this case, it was you as a child, but anybody listening, if they may have gone through a hard financial situation, if they are currently going through that, whether it be from, like I said, a divorce, whether it be from having a lot of debt in college, going into college and coming out. I know that my little sister, I talk about her a lot on the podcast, but my little sister, one of the biggest things when she first started college was she actually wanted to leave college, even though she had a full ride, because of the idea that since she's in the medical program, she eventually was going to have to take a loan because that's just how the U.S. is when it comes to education. And she was like, no, I don't want to be in debt. But her fear of debt came from our past history of our parents and how they handled finances. And I remember I used to always tell her, that doesn't have to be your story.
Yeah.
When you do get that loan, it serves a purpose and there's a way out of it. You got to, work through that. So for people that may be watching and that see that they were like, wow, this guy, like, he didn't come from much, but he just had this instilled confidence in him throughout life, whether it was from mentors, whether it was that you grew up with that spirit of always wanting more, whatever it was. What would you say to the person that says, you sound great and that sounds all jolly, but I'm just not at a place right now where I maybe believe in myself to the level that you did right off the bat, but I want to be better in finances.
Yeah.
How can I tap into that mindset to truly believe that I can be more than what my past has been?
Yeah, I think someone could look at your story.
Yeah.
They could look at other inspirational stories of, hey, this is my past, but this is where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much power to an inspirational story, because most people, like when you see a story or you see a movie, you can see bits of yourself in that. And so you're sharing your story about your past and your childhood and things maybe that didn't go well and things that have gone well. And someone can see part of themselves in your story. And I think if anyone is lacking in that confidence, I would go find some really good stories.
What were some things in your early 20s that I guess helped build your confidence?
I had a couple wins along the way. And so I had a couple investment wins that worked out well. And then I had one that worked out terribly. And actually, I share that story in here as well, which while this deal is literally falling apart, I had a short sale. And so I had one house, I made like $100,000, and I was like 24, 25. And so this is like 20 years ago. And so it's like $1 million in today's money or whatever with inflation. But I felt like, dude, I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
And then the very next deal, I lost everything that I had rolled into it. But it was this couple I sat down with, and they're an older couple. Their names are the Logiers. Very, very sweet couple. And I look back now, they're worth tons of money. And the fact that they came to my turf and sat around my kitchen table and they says, Wes, you're going to make it. I think they said, this is the 7th major recession that we've seen. You're going to make it. And that just breathed such life into me, because, our failure is not final. And like you said, you can reinvent yourself. That's not the end of your story.
Right.
Like, you have another chapter.
Yeah. I think for me, like growing up, I always had a really fearful mentality to debt. So when I'll never forget this, and in Florida, there's this furniture company called Rooms to Go. And my mom bought a beautiful, beautiful set. And at the time, she was with my dad, but she ended up getting divorced. And when the divorce was happening, she stopped making payments. And it was the type that like you buy a set and then you pay monthly payments off.
Yeah.
And this was I want to say this was like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I'll never forget, I was home alone and they started calling. And they were like, but this was illegal what they did. They were like, we need the payment from so-and-so. We need the payment from so-and-so. And I was like, she's not home. She's not home. I hung up and I called my mom at work and I was like, some guys are calling saying that they need payment. And she was like, just don't answer the phone. They called again and left a voicemail. And they were like, we know you're home. Da, 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 da. So I answer and I'm like, she's not home. And they were like, well, tell her that we're outside and we're going to go in and get the beds. Mind you, this is a legit furniture company. And I remember to this day, the fear that came over me of
take my bedroom.
My mom didn't pay. So since my mom didn't pay, my bedroom set's about to be taken by these two men and I'm home alone. And I called my mom hysterically crying. And I remember my mom wanted to rip them to shreds because she was like, one, that has to be illegal. Like they can't be calling you, telling you that. But the fear of she doesn't have enough right now came over me. And ever since then, growing up and a few other instances, whenever I would make any purchases, people would be like, but if you have money coming in, like it's fine. And I'm like, no, it's not fine. I don't have the money. If the money is not in my account, I do not have the money.
Right.
And it's because of things like that I grew up of the fear mentality. But in the same instance, in the last 6 years, I have tried to work on not being so scared of money.
Yeah.
Because money, like I think money, you either, like you said, it's a video game, board game, or you're so scared of it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a healthy relationship you can have with money. And I'm trying to learn that.
Yeah.
But I think so many people create their identity based off money.
Yeah.
And how have you been able to not base your identity off your finances since you worked in a financial company? You had ups and downs. But like you said, in that industry, it's very greasy. It's very shark.
Yeah.
It's very shark-like. So how were you able to grow from that?
I think, well, first off, how old were you when you got that phone call? Like, whether, hey, we're outside.
12.
12, okay. So
Wanna
it's
say
like,
like
I mean, that
12.
sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the house.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm so sorry that happened. I think lots of people have those types of stories, right? Maybe not at that degree, but they have some sort of story that really can help frame your thinking on money in either a positive or negative way. Dad chooses money over mom. Mom chooses money over kids. So fear can also be a fear of money, fear of having money, fear of being controlled by money. I actually know people that their parents had money and they were consumed by money, and so they were actually afraid to have money. And so they did very poorly with money, and it's almost like, why are you so bad with money? I'm like, oh my gosh, are you afraid that if you have money, money will have you? So you don't have to have money for money to have you.
Right.
You can either have no money and money has you, you can have money and money has you, or you can not have money or have money and it doesn't have you. It's more about like, what is the consuming thing in my life? Is it about money? And so I think for anyone who's growing from that, I think you have to identify those moments.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, Vanessa and I were about maybe a year or two into our marriage. And I remember going to a grocery store and for some reason I wanted to buy cereal. And so I'm buying some cereal and something in me said I had to buy the cheap cereal. You know, the cereal that comes in the bag, it gets soggy real quick, you know, and even though I could, at this point, we're both working, I can afford whatever cereal I want.
Right.
And it's not like we're not talking about caviar. We're not talking about expensive steaks. We're talking about, are you going to spend $4 or $2?
Right.
And something was in me that I was like, I can't do that. I can't afford that because there was a piece of me that was still stuck in that old mentality. And not that we go into like full on treat yourself and like everything is like.
No, yeah, but it's still the fear mentality of like, what if leaves? What if I don't have? What if, I get that.
So it's more identifying, I don't want to be controlled by money in any aspect of my life. I want my life to be controlled by vision, and that's it. Here's where I'm going. Here's the type of man that I want to be. Here's for us, for Vanessa and I, here's the type of people that we want to be, the type of home that we want to lead, and the type of legacy that we want to lead. We will be led by vision, not fear, not my parents' failure, not even my own past failures.
Yeah.
Like, financial things that didn't work out. We will not be led by that. Fear is not our future. Greed is not our future. The vision that we have from God, that will lead our life.